Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Human Services Issues Forum for candidates running in the race for Allegheny County Executive. I want to thank all of you for taking time during this busy week of work and a period of significant religious observances across several faiths to join us in another major undertaking on the community calendar, our democratic, small d, election process. I'm Lisa Schroeder, President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Foundation, and with my partner, Bobby Watt Geer, as President and CEO of the United Way of Southwestern Pennsylvania, am proud to be hosting this forum. We know from our own experience how critically important it is that voters understand the issues so that they can make the best possible decisions on candidates. And we've heard from elected officials how much they would have benefited as candidates from briefings like this. So, to all the candidates with us this evening, we appreciate you reserving time on your busy campaign schedules to be with us for an educational opportunity and to publicize issues that don't often make it to the top of our news feeds. To the nonprofit leaders with us this evening, we appreciate you reserving time on your with us who have worked hard to prepare presentations on housing, food insecurity, and child poverty. We salute your dedication to ensuring that the policymaking process moves residents forward instead of merely holding them in place. While there are many elective offices that are on the ballot for the May 16th primary and the November 7th general election, this event focuses intentionally on one, Allegheny County Executive. It is arguably the most important elected position in Western Pennsylvania. The person holding this office governs 1.2 million residents, heads an operation of nearly 7,000 employees, produces a budget that this year exceeds $1 billion, and distributes hundreds of millions of dollars from federal and state governments. The county executive also has appointing power to boards, authorities, and commissions that determine policies and regulatory requirements affecting all of us. The head of the county's executive office must deal effectively with the other two branches, a 15-member council and the judiciary comprised of civil, criminal, family, and orphans courts. So while this is an off-year election, without federal contests to capture public imagination, this race is incredibly important. Many of us working to improve quality of life for the most vulnerable in our communities recognize human services issues as presenting some of the most significant challenges for our organizations and our civic and governmental partners. Health and welfare, the section of Allegheny County's government operations that covers human services, make up 40% of the budget. We have limited our discussion today to three categories of human services that we believe are the chief determiners of quality of life in the region: housing, food, and poverty affecting children. Because at the Pittsburgh Foundation and the United Way, we have benefited repeatedly from the expertise and on-the-ground knowledge of human services leaders, we want to provide the same opportunity this evening to all candidates who are interested. One last point. Any progress we can make as partners with government in the three areas selected for briefings tonight will benefit all Allegheny County residents, not just those in need. That notion is at the core of the vision we at the Foundation have adopted in our new strategic plan: to realize a region in which every person, regardless of race or other aspects of identity, has opportunities to thrive. I want to thank Bobby Watt Geer and her team at the United Way for partnering with us in this briefing event. She will close out our evening with some brief remarks on the presentations and responses. And I know Bobby joins me in thanking our staff teams who have worked for weeks to coordinate this evening's event to support the democratic process through fair representation and as a labor of love for our region. I hope there will be many more of these in the future. And now, with my everlasting gratitude, I will turn this over to Michelle Figlar, our qualified in the extreme facilitator for this evening. Michelle is the executive director of the Birmingham Foundation, which funds child care, education, violence prevention, health and welfare initiatives in 10 South Pittsburgh neighborhoods. Before taking over that position last year, Michelle was vice president for learning at the Heinz Endowments, where she oversaw nearly $30 million in grants distributed annually for education and child development initiatives. Just to embarrass her. Other highlights of her amazing career include Deputy Secretary of the Pennsylvania Office of Child Development and Early Learning and a decade as Executive Director of the Pittsburgh Association for the Education of Young Children, now known as Trying Together. Now I'm going to sit down and be quiet. Very excited to listen and learn with all of you here. Thank you, Michelle. Take it away.
Thank you, Lisa, and it is very, very wonderful to be here this afternoon. I'm very honored to moderate this event on behalf of the human services organizations that work so hard to plan this event. I am honored to be here. I also have a very important responsibility of keeping us on time, so you're going to hear me say that several times tonight. To get started, I'd like to introduce the candidates that are here with us today. We have Mr. Dave Fawcett, Democrat, lawyer, and former at-large county councilor. Representative Sarah Enamorado, Democrat, state representative from the 21st District. Mr. Michael Lamb, Democrat, Pittsburgh City Controller. Mr. Will Parker, Democrat, entrepreneur, and mobile app developer. Mr. John Weinstein, Democrat, Allegheny County Treasurer, and Mr. Joe Rocky, Republican, former PNC Financial Services Executive. Mrs. Teresa Kalaisi was also invited to attend, but she is not with us tonight. You can give the candidates a round of applause. Okay, so here's the framework and the rules for today's event. Today's event was designed to elevate the issues that Lisa mentioned: food insecurity, housing instability, and child poverty within the campaign for our next county executive. The audience here today represent the nonprofit organizations that work in these areas to solve our region's toughest issues. On March 18th, these leaders gathered to brainstorm what they would like you, the candidates, to know about food insecurity, housing instability, and child poverty. This event will be split into 3 sections focused on those 3 topics. The nonprofit leaders you will hear tonight were nominated by their peers to present information to the candidates and highlighting the issues raised collectively during our planning session. This afternoon, we have, representing food insecurity issues, Colleen Young, Director of Government Affairs for the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank. Representing housing insecurity, Keenan Michael, I'm sorry about that, Executive Director of First Step Recovery Homes. And representing childhood poverty, Dave Copeland, Executive Director of the Human Services Center in the Mon Valley. Can we give our nonprofit leaders a round of applause? And I really do want to thank you for all the hard work. I participated in some of the conversations, and thank you for agreeing to do this tonight. Okay, so this is the most important part. At the beginning of each section, the nonprofit leader will spend 6 minutes describing their experience in that particular area, and they may suggest policy recommendations for for consideration. There's going to be somebody keeping time. They're going to let us know when you have 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and I will stop you at 6 minutes, okay? Again, I will stop you at 6 minutes. I was a preschool teacher, so I can end circle time, right? Each candidate will then have 2 minutes to respond. Again, each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond, and I will stop you at 2 minutes, okay? We will repeat this process for food insecurity, housing instability, and child poverty in that order. The final 30 minutes will be set aside for questions that will come from me, the moderator. These questions are not my questions. These are questions that have been sourced from the brainstorming session, and therefore spontaneous questions from the audience will not be allowed. We have our questions set. So let's get started. I'd like to invite Colleen Young, Director of Government Affairs for the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, to join us and tell our candidates what they need to know about food insecurity in our region. Colleen?
Good afternoon, candidates and human service partners. Thank you to the Pittsburgh Foundation and the United Way for hosting this important forum. Thank you all for joining us today to learn more about the critical health and human service issues impacting Allegheny County. My name is Colleen Young. Today I'm representing 2 food security organizations, Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, where I serve as the Director of Government Affairs, and also Just Harvest, where I serve as the Secretary of the Board of Directors. The missions of both organizations seek to address the root causes of hunger by leveraging the power of community, because we know we cannot solve the deep and complex issues that lead to hunger alone. According to 2020 data compiled by Feeding America, more than 1 in 10 Allegheny County residents is food insecure. That number increases when we look at specific populations, including nearly 1 in 6 children and nearly 1 in 4 Black residents. The USDA defines food insecurity as a lack of consistent access to enough food for every person in a household to live an active, healthy life. This can be a long-term or temporary situation, as we saw early in the pandemic when many people experienced food insecurity for the first time. Many people also move in and out of food insecurity as their life circumstances change and are often one unexpected medical or car maintenance bill away from needing assistance to feed their families. Some of the common causes of food insecurity include poverty, unemployment or low income, lack of affordable housing, chronic health conditions or lack of access to health care, lack of access to reliable transportation, and systemic racism and racial discrimination. Food insecurity among Black and Latino individuals is higher than for white individuals in 99% of counties across the U.S. While food insecurity fell for white households between 2019 to 2020, it rose for all other racial and ethnic groups. In any work that Allegheny County does to address food insecurity, it will be critical to address these root causes and ensure that racial equity is at the center of that work. In 2022, the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank worked to create a spatial analysis of food bank and partner services. You have a map in front of you that illustrates what we called a social vulnerability index that pulled a variety of different measures from the census. As you can see, the majority of the highest, darkest areas, which is the highest risk score, are concentrated in urban areas, but there are pockets of food insecurity in suburban areas as well. Those suburban areas also face complications such as reduced access to transportation and social services, reduced options for affordable food purchases, and sometimes more stigma around asking for help. Overall, right now, we know that food insecurity is rising. Inflation and supply chain shortages have driven up food prices, and pandemic-related income and hunger relief supports have ended, including SNAP emergency allotments, which just ended this past March. The loss of emergency allotments is also putting a strain on the Charitable Food Network. For this March alone, the first month's households did not receive an additional SNAP payment. The food bank's total food moving through our warehouse increased by 20% over the prior year. Additionally, 23% of the more than 1,900 families who came to our on-site food pantry in Duquesne this March specifically said they came because of cuts to SNAP benefits. That does not include the people supported by the more than 500 partner agencies in Allegheny County that distribute food, including but not limited to food pantries, senior centers, after-school, and summer programs for children. Increased food insecurity plays a cyclical role with other indicators of well-being and economic stability. Stress and coping strategies such as skipping meals and choosing cheaper, less nutritious foods drive up chronic disease, increase healthcare costs, decrease employability, and decrease overall household income. So how does this relate to the Allegheny County Executive role? The county executive is a powerful advocate to push for essential federal and state dollars to support the nutritional needs of our neighbors. Right now, Congress is debating what SNAP and commodities that are given to food banks and senior food boxes is going to look like for the next 5 years in the federal farm bill. Also, the state is debating the budget, which includes several important key nutrition dollars. The county executive can also supplement these funding sources with county funds, looking beyond poverty programs to creating economic development opportunities, specifically in Black and brown neighborhoods. For example, the city of Pittsburgh has just invested $3 million in a food justice fund that will build capacity and infrastructure in our local food system by investing in urban farming, contributing to the development of community and/or mobile markets, and prioritizing investments in grassroots efforts to support healthy food priority areas as identified in the city's 2020 Feed PGH report. The county could expand upon that effort. Additionally, the county administers federal and state funds that pass through the county, such as the Community Development Block Grant dollars. The food bank receives critical CDBG dollars to enable our county food pantry partners to distribute food and essential non-food items such as toilet paper and hygiene supplies from the food bank at no cost. The County Department of Health administers the federal WIC program, which supports women, infants, and children until they reach kindergarten. WIC participation has overall been dropping with a slight increase last year. And there's a great opportunity for the county to advocate for state-level changes such as access to electronic benefits and other opportunities to reduce barriers to participation. The county executive also helps to establish the budget for the Department of Human Services and can prioritize efforts that will streamline access to benefits and resources that impact food security. Ideally, people would be able to access a full spectrum of resources at a single point of contact. DHS has access to deep warehouse of data on people who access services. The county could invest additional dollars into understanding and implementing innovations that would integrate services. Some integration work was previously done under the Department of Human Services Bureau of Hunger and Housing, which has been disbanded. That kind of open cross-sector collaboration would be welcome again. Thank you again for the opportunity to share these issues and recommendations. I look forward to hearing how each of you would address hunger and its related root causes as county executive. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen, and thank you for staying under 6 minutes. So, as I said, each candidate is going to have 2 minutes to address how you would address food insecurity here in Allegheny County. We did a random draw of who will go first, so no 2 candidates will go first and no 2 candidates will go last to try to make it equitable. All right, so we're going to start with Mr. Fawcett, please. You have 2 minutes to respond.
Is this okay? Great. Thank you all for being here. The 2 nonprofits I really was involved with over the years is, first of all, the Pennsylvania Innocence Project, which represents people who are sentenced to life for crimes they didn't commit and are actually innocent. And the other group that I was involved with heavily was the River Life Task Force for years, which you all know is centered around our urban core and our riverfronts. I'm not an expert on food insecurity. I do know this, and I don't want to run my mouth in front of a lot of people who are experts, but I do know and agree with the critical job of the county executive in advocating for resources. And the way I look at it is, look, government and banks and corporations caused a lot of the issues that we're facing today, and they have a responsibility to address them. And from my standpoint, as someone that's taken on big challenges, fought when I had to fight, negotiated when I had to negotiate, and worked out solutions, we need an advocate. We need someone who has, lifetime experiences in taking on these challenges. And all these issues that we deal with and the issues that we often get asked about on these forums all have something in common. And you know what that is. We need resources. We need resources. We need money. And so you need to have a multi-pronged approach. From my standpoint, there's a couple things. Number one, jobs. We need to keep jobs here, and every politician will say that, but we need a plan. We're losing manufacturing jobs to other cities. We can't afford to do that. Secondly, sustainability as a way of revitalizing our communities is key. But look, of all the entities that we need to be most concerned about, it is the children. And so here, that has to be your principal focus and priority as county executive, how to get resources to help the problems, particularly as they pertain to children.
Thank you, Mr. Foster.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's 2 minutes. Just so happens that Ms. Enamorado, you're next on my list.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for everyone who's here for being informed and advocating for the people that you serve every day. As a state representative, I have prioritized being open and accessible to the community, especially folks who are in greatest need. And I will tell you, in our office on Butler Street, in the community office hours that we do at libraries, we see people from all walks of life who walk through our doors who are in crisis. I've had people come to my office who have been living in their car. Just this week, I was dealing with an eviction of my neighbor who had lived in the same place for 10 years and helping to help find her housing and port her housing choice voucher. So this is work that I'm deeply involved in on a day-to-day basis and rely on partners like you all to do this work. We need $70 million to address food insecurity in Allegheny County to be able to make sure that we can ensure that we're ending food insecurity. So we have a lot of really good ideas that have come from not only Colleen and the recommendations that she's made, but from the work that you all are doing out in the community. We can absolutely find the money to create a food justice fund at the county level. Food insecurity does not stop at the city border. You can see that on this map. So we need to be able to deploy those types of programs county-wide and concentrate them in these areas where there is high level of vulnerability and be able to form those partnerships and collaborate with the people who are on the ground doing the work. And there's so many good ideas that a food justice fund can support, things like urban ag, making sure we have cooking demonstrations, things to make sure we have healthy corner stores and options for fresh produce in food deserts.
Thank you very much. That was 2 minutes.
Great.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Mr. Lamb, it just so happens you're next.
All right, that worked out.
Yep.
So I have always believed that public service, even in jobs that don't seem related, that public service is always about the fight to end poverty. And that's what I've talked about throughout my career. And I look at the opportunities. First off, let me thank you for the source materials you provided us to review some of this information, and I certainly appreciate that. Certainly, the role of advocate is key. Advocating for more funding for programs around hunger are critically important and something that I take very seriously. As the city controller, I can tell you I worry a little bit about the sustainability of the city's effort around hunger. The funds that they're using and whether they're going to be able to draw upon funds similar as we move forward into the future. I also am concerned, and have talked about this in some of the audits that we do, about our use of CDBG funds for items that may not really qualify as poverty, fighting poverty. But in addition to advocating for funding, I think we've got to get better at communicating programs that exist and how they can be used. We have the health department right now who go to every grocery store and every food provider across this county. We should be arming them with information that can be available in the grocery stores about SNAP and about the various benefits that are out there. Making sure, I mean, if our goal is to make sure that everyone that qualifies is getting the help they need, we've got to do it at the source. And I think that's one way that we could really help to drive up participation in these programs, in addition to the funding that's necessary. And of course, you know, I'm a volunteer at the urban farm, the Hilltop Urban Farm. Anything we can do to get fresh produce into community is something I'm going to support.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. I'm going to turn now to Mr. Weinstein.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm John Weinstein, and I've had the honor and the privilege to be the treasurer in this great county for the past 25 years. And being the treasurer, I understand the budgeting process intensely from the inside out. And I understand the Department of Human Services, and I understand how we can allocate funds. I'm concerned about so many different things as we embark on this discussion. First and foremost, we lost 50,000 jobs in Allegheny County in the last 5 years. 12,000 people have exited this county, have moved out of Allegheny County. One of the worst statistics in the region. Even Ohio had better statistics than we did. We were the worst performing county in Pennsylvania for people losing jobs. We need to create an opportunity for people to have jobs. And in doing so, I'm committed to having a hunger-free Allegheny County and working with our department, the Department of Human Services, and to prioritize this. There's absolutely no reason in the world that any child in Allegheny County should have to go hungry. We need to all come together and create a partnership with each and every one of you in this room that has a stake in an advocacy in this issue. And you need an executive that's willing to sit down and listen to you and bring it to the table with the ideas that we need to make this happen. That is one thing I'm committed to do, and I have always done that in the years that I've worked in county government, is being able to bring people to the table for a common good and move forward so that we can make things happen. This is a huge priority for me, and creating an opportunity for transportation and for the partnership that we need to do to make a hunger-free Allegheny County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weinstein. Just so happens it's Mr. Rocky.
Just say it's going to be one of the two of us. Well, hello, I'm Joe Rocky, and I thank you for bringing me here and giving me an opportunity to talk about things that really matter deeply to me. I grew up on the north side, and my father got sick when I was 5. And so food insecurity is something I actually lived with as a child. I know what it means to have to get on a bus with my mother and ride to Allegheny Center Mall, where the only grocery store was, and to have to use food stamps to buy the groceries that we carried home back on the bus. And I know the difficulty that families experience when they don't have food available to them, when they don't have the financial support to get the food that they need. And having lived that, having opened the Frigidaire door as call it a 10-year-old with 5 days left in the month, and hearing my mother call from the other room, "We're going to Grandma's tonight," which meant there's no food for us to eat here. We're going to go somewhere else so someone will take care of us. No child and no elderly individual should live in that situation. And what it is our job to do as county executive, you said advocate. Number one, we've got to fight for the dollars. The dollars that we're losing because the pandemic money has gone away. It's unacceptable that we let people who had a chance to have better food security slip back to where they were a couple years ago. It shouldn't require a pandemic for us to take care of the people around us. And we need to make sure we integrate the services, again, as you suggested. Make sure people can go to one place and understand all of what is available to them. So as county executive, I will make sure that we integrate the activities, we make it available to people so they have access to it, so that they don't have to have the experience that I had, and that we make every child and every elderly person feel wanted and taken care of in this county.
Thank you, Mr. Rocky. And Mr. Parker.
Hello, everyone. Food insecurity is basically what brought me to this point running for this position. As you've heard, my background is in food delivery. I've been in the food delivery service for over a decade, delivering the food deserts throughout Pittsburgh, from the east side, north side, west side, south side. And that's what I love to do. You know, I'm intentional about it. I want to make sure the kids have healthy meals before they leave out and go to school every morning. And when we think about how we tackle food insecurity, you know, just to let you all know, the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture on the federal level, his name is, I believe, Tom Vilsack, Secretary Vilsack. Now, he's right here. He lives in Squirrel Hill, he's a Squirrel Hill native. So I don't know why we're even struggling with these issues. You know, he should be in this room with us. He should be at every meeting that we have when it comes to food insecurity, because he's from right here. So we got to make sure that we're tapping in on a federal level and make sure that these millions and these funding and these grants are coming here. Also, what brought me to this level, you know, there's other places that offer resources like the Department of Economic Development out of Harrisburg. And they have government incubators like Innovation Works, who I've applied for. And, you know, I had some issues over there because it doesn't seem like they're too inclusive, but we got to knock down on those doors and make sure that they're open for not just people like me, but other people who are trying to tackle these issues through technology. Because that's how we're going to get it. We need to connect with people. We need to get their feedback, and we could do it the simplest way by getting their feedback through their telephones. But, you know, food security. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for staying very close to your 2 minutes. I really, really appreciate that. I'm now going to introduce Keenan Michael. There's some feedback going on here. Executive Director of First Step Recovery Homes, for his 6 minutes. There you go.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to try to make this fast because I get long-winded. So first, I want to start off with some questions I would like for you guys to consider, and then I'll bring up some information. I want to ask you, how would you deal with our housing pipeline, making it more equitable? How would you work with making the homeless into homeowners? Affordable housing in marginalized communities. Increase affordable and inclusive housing. And also what statistics and studies are telling you the information that you're going by. So as a social worker, as well as an executive, I kind of have that bleeding heart social worker idea, but I also understand policy. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we have to focus on in restructuring our housing situation. As you may know, from 13,000 to 14,000 residents are evicted every year. In 2019, the average amount claimed by property owners was $2,029, while cases filed have been stable for year to year and slowly going up 35% during the period of the study. There's been a disproportionate number of cases filed against low-income tenants living publicly subsidized housing. Less than 1% of the tenants have attorneys to help them in their eviction hearings. Landlords win about 85% of these cases. Tenants win 1.5% of their eviction cases. The rest are thrown out, withdrawn, or dismissed. And 73% of landlord-tenant cases filed are from overdue rent, not from violations of a lease agreement or any other activity. So these cases can move quickly through the court system. Magistrates ordering evictions are very quick, within 28 days. This process obviously shatters their integrity. The most common reason for eviction is the fact that they don't have the money, so they can't afford it. They have court costs on top of that. And then from there, what are you supposed to do? You have to have first month's rent. You have to have a security deposit. Where are you going to have that? You couldn't even have an attorney to help you keep the house that you had in the first place, right? So some resort to living in cars, encampment, and we ignore the trauma that this causes. Sometimes it's individual, sometimes it's as a couple, and sometimes it's in the family. So when I'm speaking of homelessness, we may envision an individual who's homeless, but we may not think about the fact that there's a family behind that individual. Someone had mentioned that the homelessness in downtown Pittsburgh is a problem, and doesn't look good for the city. And I think that was very insensitive because it's bigger than what it looks like for the city. Our biggest resource are the people, all right? So real quick, we have housing shortages. For those earning less than 30% AMI, therefore, there's a shortage of 37,000 units in this county, 8,000 in the city of Pittsburgh. Available units are often unlivable, and aid is judgy and discouraging. Speaking to home ownership, there are barriers existing in these programs. There's targeted communities. The segregation is widening the wealth gap. This is the city of bridges. However, people are stuck in their own sections. Urban, in my opinion, is becoming a microaggression, and the black community is being used as a synonym for poor or violent. So when we speak about helping the urban community and what are we gonna do in the black community, it's often discouraged in the media and brushed on with a lot of our, I'm not attacking, but some of our politicians, right? And then we're devaluing the property whenever we do that. So I'm living in McKeesport. The property value is shooting down. Houses are dilapidated. They're falling apart. Developers are coming up. They're raising up the prices as they build up. The people who live there can't afford that. We know what that's called, gentrification, right? So it's the same soup warmed over. I'm seeing it in slow motion right now in McKeesport. So there's blatant gentrification going on throughout the Mon Valley, Braddock, Duquesne, Clairton. I have to mention that because the Mon Valley seems to get overlooked in a lot of these things. It seems like the city of Pittsburgh often gets a lot of the funding, but where the people are struggling at, they're often not there. So funding, I'm asking also for funding for bridge housing within 90 days after a person leaves a shelter like First Step, Recovery Home, or Zakiah House, so they can have a chance, so they can have some stability once they leave. Thank you.
All right, that's 2 for 2, staying under 6 minutes. Thank you. And once again, I'm going to ask the candidates to take 2 minutes to respond to how you as county executive would respond to housing instability. Mr. Parker, I'm going to start with you this time.
Okay, so when it comes to housing, it's clear that there are disparities, especially for people of color. There's a lot of renters in this area, a lot of renters in this county, and there's been some myths based around home ownership, but we need to eliminate those myths and let people streamline the process to where people can obtain home ownership. It's just renting is okay, but most of us here, and we're going to be here for a long time, so we might as well have some stake in this game. We might as well own our property, so we have something to say when it comes to what happens in our community. And we have people, we have a lot of support for mothers, women. I would like to see more support for black men obtaining housing. So they can be that strong figure in their community, so they can be that father who can have that extra time to have the kids come over his house. We need to build that. We need to build that in a way where it shows leadership. But we also need to address, like this man said, over a lack of funding that's going over into the Mon Valley. And people are just being left out the picture. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if they're just counting this group of people out, but we need to stop that. As they said, this next county executive will be responsible for over $1 billion, allocating $1 billion. I don't know about you, but I know I can equally allocate $1 billion to make sure that everybody gets their piece of the pie. And the time to do that is right now. We can't have this 4 years later and be sitting back here having the same conversation. There's 6 of us up here right now. We can make the decisions to make people homeowners and get them in the houses right now.
Mr. Parker, thank you so much. All right, I'm going to keep you on your toes. I'm now going to Mr. Weinstein. Yeah, see?
Thank you. Actually, the county budget is $3 billion. It's $1 billion health and human services, it's $1 billion operating, and it's $1 billion capital budget. So to Mr. Parker's point, there's a lot of money that we could utilize so much better than that has been. But people are definitely our natural resource, and I've been advocating that we create a plan for the homeless, a mental health problem, a plan, and an addiction plan. We need to address that. Post-COVID, there's been such a problem that's transpired, and we need, as leaders and officials in this county, need to come up with solutions for that. The affordable housing issue I want to address. There's an awful lot of blighted properties in Allegheny County, an awful lot. And I believe we could take a countywide land bank and a countywide tax claim bureau and create a process where we could take those properties and put them back on the tax rolls in a quick and affordable a way to be able to do that. Through a tax claim bureau, you could take a property to sale for $500 to $1,500. Right now, it has to be done through a sheriff's sale process, which is very costly and time-consuming. It's about $5,000 to $8,000 to do a sheriff's sale property. We could put these properties back on the tax rolls and create an opportunity for home ownership, for people to actually own their home and take pride in it and be able to live in a community and reevaluate what their life is going to. And this is so important, and I'm a big believer of transforming this for affordable housing and putting properties back on the tax rolls.
Thank you, Mr. Weinstein. I am going to turn to Mr. Rocky.
We're making it easy now.
This time.
Housing is critical. I'm the chair of St. Joseph's Hostel Hospitality, and I've seen what it means for an individual to show up who was unhoused and to have a place to stay. I've seen what it means to their dignity. I've seen what it means to their day, how their life changes, how having a meal every day at a time, knowing they're going to have a place to eat, a place to stay, and people around them that are going to support them. And so getting after the homeless challenges that we have in this county is the first step, while we're also building towards affordable housing for everybody. As mentioned, there's an incredible shortfall in affordable housing. One of my roles at PNC was actually having the tax credit, the affordable housing tax credit business rolled into me at one point. That tax credit business, tax credits are the fundamental way affordable housing is built all across the country. And so leveraging the public-private partnership in a manner that brings those tax credits to the neighborhoods that need them the most and has the developments associated with those tax credits that doesn't just put up affordable housing, but puts up a community around that affordable housing is what we need to do to create the kind of environment that doesn't regentrify an area, it redevelops an area for the same people who were there before the whole redevelopment started. That's what I will bring to the table. My experience in the banking side, again, I was part of the tax credit business at PNC. I actually had the community development business at PNC report to me for a period of time. These are all hands-on experiences, touching communities all around the country, seeing these transactions come to life and making them work. By the way, the last point is I was PNC's lead on the build of 2nd Avenue Commons. And so I know what it means to take a homeless situation and actually create a solution that addresses that homeless need in action. So with that, I'll stop.
Thank you, Mr. Rocky. Thank you. Now turn to Ms. Anamarato. Thank you.
So when I was 14 years old, we found out my dad had an addiction to opioids. And my mom took my sister and I out of that home. And I saw, even growing up in a neighborhood like Ross Township, how precarious housing can be. We moved 10 different places in about 2.5 years. So I know, coming from a well-resourced family and neighborhood, that this can happen to anybody. And while I get my data from the National Low Income Housing Coalition, I am informed by being the vice chair of the Allegheny County Housing Authority and a member of the eviction prevention cohort, I think that data is great, but listening to folks who have that lived experience of dealing with housing insecurity, because it comes in many forms and in many ways, and we are going to need a cross-sectoral interagency approach to dealing with this issue. My idea as county executive is to create a housing needs assessment for the entire county, so we figure out where our hotspots are. Where do we need affordable housing? Where do we need affordable home ownership? Where do we need market rate development and more mixed income? We can look at the properties that are owned along transit routes and really encourage transit-oriented development. That's mixed use, mixed income. We can take the Lawyer of the Day program that is working well in the city of Pittsburgh and expand that county-wide so that we actually have legal representation for people who are going through the eviction process. And we can draw down money and create more permanent supportive housing, because we know it's not just as simple as putting someone in a bed, but these are folks who need wraparound services and ongoing supports, and there are many, many more ideas I know that you all have in how we help create housing, safe, stable, and affordable housing for all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Lamb.
Let me start with evictions. There is a real unfairness in this county around evictions, depending on what magistrate you end up in front of. The overall answer, of course, is that we need to fund lawyers and help people through that process and have money available. I mean, when you're talking about such small amounts of money to what it costs on the back end, it's crazy not to fund this kind of thing. But I think the idea really is to create and work with our minor judiciary to create regional courts around housing issues, eviction, landlord-tenant, even code enforcement and these other kind of issues that could be dealt with either a rotating magistrate or with a senior judge who's really trained in those issues to work on those. I would tell you, I would agree with you about the fact that a lot of time money goes to the city and not to other places where it should. And one of the places where that's true is in land banks, because our URA has a land bank, and it's a disaster, an absolute disaster. And it's a disaster because our elected officials in leadership won't get out of the way and give up control. But we have a great example of a land bank down in the Mon Valley that's doing good work, that should get more money, that should be funded, allow them to grow, not just in the communities that are currently representing, but across to a bigger part of the community and do some of that work. As far as funding, we have to fund all approaches. We need more funding for shelters. We need more funding for transitional, single-room occupancy housing. We need more funding for subsidized housing, and both for rental and home ownership. Some people don't want to own a home. Some people don't see that, and particularly seniors, who don't want that added responsibility of home ownership. We need to be able to fund opportunities for all types of housing and for all ages. You know, our seniors. I know when my parents had to move out of the big house and downsize to a smaller house, that was the right answer for them, but it wasn't the right answer for my aunt who moved to a small little apartment on the T-line. You know, so everyone, we've got to fund opportunities and give everyone an option.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. And Mr. Fawcett.
Okay, so these are a lot of great ideas. I agree with most all of them. As someone that's represented pro bono clients who are facing eviction, I understand we have a tilted playing field. And as a lawyer, I'd be involved with the courts, and I would make changes to address that issue. Blight removal is super important. Developers, and when they're coming in and negotiating terms where a developer involved, one creates affordable housing, but then also you think, okay, we're giving you a benefit. What's the long-term gain? And presently developers oftentimes have obligations until the tax break runs out. And then they can flip the affording housing, or they can make a profit on it. And that doesn't make sense. So that really is a matter of holding developers' feet to the fire and being tough when you have to and negotiating out solutions when you have to. Finally, I would say this, that there is a big concentration of issues in our urban core and along our riverfronts. And in those places, we also have a lot of existing housing stock, which we really want to do everything to preserve to the extent we can. And I think from the county executive's standpoint, we want to make big investments in our riverfronts and along our riverfronts and the urban core and prioritize that so that we make places more livable and more attractive. One thing that I did when I was on the county council was had ordinances passed empowering the county to create a countywide riverfront park that would be transformative. Be a matter of moving rail lines back and having a continuous linear park that would run not just in the city but from county line to county line, making a lot of these riverfront communities more attractive, having access to green space and transportation. Those are all part of the mix.
Thank you, Mr. Fawcett. Thank you. And our third topic for this afternoon is childhood poverty. And I'd like to introduce Dave Copeland, Executive Director of Human Services Center in the Mon Valley, and he'll have his 6 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you. Thanks for being here, candidates. The future of Allegheny County starts with children. Our hope is that if you are elected county executive, that in every decision you make, you will take into account how it affects the children. Think about that. How will it affect the children? How we care for our children and our families in Allegheny County is the key question. We know that decisions that affect children directly affect families and affect communities. We thank you for doing your homework and reading the Allegheny County Children's Fund's Working Group report, which provides an incredible view into the issues that affect children in poverty in our county. This report serves as the basis to create the Department of Children Initiatives in county government. We know from this report and other reports from County Department of Human Services that children in poverty is a full county issue. It's not unique to any one neighborhood. In that report in September 2019, we learned there were not enough spots for early childhood education or out of school time for kids. And during the pandemic and through today in our region, we've lost many early childhood slots and out of school time. But we know there's a return on investment in these programs. In the state, there's a report that shows the return on investment for out of school time is $7 for every $1 invested. Professor Heckman nationally did research into early childhood programs for disadvantaged children, which yield a 13% annual return on investment per child. The economics here are clear. There are several items we want you to consider today. We have concerns about the school-to-prison pipeline, substandard education, bad policing, courts, and the prison system are four systems that work as siblings in capitalism that run through all of them, that put children in harm's way. We have a lot to do to help young people and families affected in our communities by violence. We also want to put on the table the growth of our Latino community by 80%. There's changing demographics here in Allegheny County. This is a good immigration for our community, but there's language access that we need to take into account. A growing immigrant population that's helped our county, but we also have to take into account disproportional poverty that affects that community. The Black poverty is higher, poverty in the Latino community is higher. We know that there's a struggle to get equitable funding. Language barriers and reducing risk of deportation are on the table. There's a bus shortage here in our region too. PRT in the city of Pittsburgh is the main source for children to get to school in the city. But we also know that that goes out into the county. What are the issues in terms of transit for children and their families throughout the county? We know the county exec can spur partnership with the county, school entities, out-of-school time programs, community-based organizations like those here today. We would like to partner and be a focus for every candidate. When you consider this, think about nonprofits as your core partners. The pandemic has brought learning loss to children. This is a real problem. And yet there's a blueprint for children's issues right there in front of you that we've provided. And part of our message is we know, as you've talked about already today, we have to grow the pie in terms of dollars allocated to the people in this region to help them. There are common threads throughout the issues you've heard already as well as with children. Allegheny County needs to be a welcoming place. One of you will be the next county executive. Children could be at the heart of the legacy you leave behind when the day comes that you step out of that office. The Surgeon General was here and spent a considerable amount of time recently in Pittsburgh talking about mental health needs and the needs of the region and how that affects children, and said we need to step up. Dr. Murthy said, if we seize this moment, step up for our children and their families in the moment of need, and lead with inclusion, kindness, and respect, we can lay the foundation for a healthier, more resilient, and more fulfilled nation. The nonprofit sector needs your help to work with government to address all of these issues. We want the next county executive to commit $20 million in local, recurring, sustainable annual funding to the Department of Children's Initiatives. We want the next county exec to pledge to always put up 100% of the local match for every state and federal dollar that benefits people in the region. We have some very specific questions for you. We want you to fund the Department of Children's Initiatives at $20 million. Will you commit to that in new, local, sustainable annual revenue? Will you ensure that all state and federal funds available to support children in this county are matched by the county dollars that leverage them? Will you work across the various school districts to support children? Will you work to make this an equitable place for children of all backgrounds? And lastly, what ideas would you have to stop children from being pushed through school suspension and into police interaction and into jail? Just remember, if you're elected, this will be part of your legacy. We encourage you to think about the children first in all that you do. Thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Copeland, and that's 3 for 3. Thank you very much. You made my job much easier. All right, so again, the question is, how will you, as county executive, address children's issues here in Allegheny County? And I'm going to start with you, Representative Innamorato.
Thank you. And, to your point, the county isn't currently matching all of the funds that they could to be able to draw down the state dollars that are available. Something as simple as a $5 million match to draw down $30 million is currently being left on the table that could be used for the initiatives that have been outlined in what you spoke about today. So, really, we have to work not only across agencies at the county level, but with all levels of government. So we need to partner with the city. There's an opportunity for them to offer matches so we can access those types of funding. We have to stop operating in silos and work collaboratively, and that goes for the government as well. I will commit to funding the Department of Children's Initiatives at $20 million a year. And in addition, working with the community groups that are working on reimagining the Schumann Center and directing the conversation not necessarily around that physical structure, but what our kids need. And there's some proven initiatives like Freedom Schools, for example, that exist in Pennsylvania and across the nation that can serve as a resource for kids who get pushed out of traditional schooling opportunities and be able to support them without them having to go through the criminal legal system to access resources. We can also use the convening power of the county exec's office to work on issues like transportation, because not only is it an opportunity to bring together Pittsburgh Regional Transit, but figure out how do we move kids around this county across school districts so that they can access high quality opportunities in out of school time, and make sure that those transportation options are available at all hours around the clock. So
Thank you. Do we get 2 minutes there? We're not into our next questions yet, so this is still 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, this is still 2 minutes until we get to the other questions. Nope, we're not to Q&A quite yet. All right.
No worries, but
Sorry
we can do that. We also have to work on addressing the digital divide that exists, so that we can make sure that our children have access to digital learning, and the county can be a convening force to solve those very complex and intersectional issues.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, 2 minutes, okay? All right, all right, Mr. Parker.
Okay, it's clear that poverty leads to crime. And this is all relative when it comes to the food insecurity, when it comes to the lack of good housing. It all reverts back to poverty. And most of the time, the people who are being targeted in these areas are, again, people of color. And, you know, I was talking to someone about this issue, something similar to this before, and talking politics. And, you know, they seem like they had some good ideas as well when it comes to helping out kids and everything. And I said, you know, why would you consider running for politics, for a political position? And they said no. And I said, why not? And they told me they don't care enough. They don't care that much. And I guess that's what makes me real passionate on this topic, because I do care that much. When it comes to our kids, there's not anything that I won't do for them. You know, a big topic in this whole race right now is the reopening of Schumann Center. And I'm the candidate who has taken a stance to say no to reopening Schumann Center at all. I understand that is nothing but going to be a place where they're going to target our young kids and throw them in there and keep them in there without a bond, without even knowing if they're innocent or guilty yet. And I think that leads to trauma. Not only affects the child, but affects the parent. Think of your child being housed in a detention facility and they're innocent. But there's nothing that you can do to get them out because there's no bail set or nothing like that. So we got to make sure that everything that when we're talking about kids, we're intentional. I would look over that $20 million initiative that you're talking about. I look at it and I would commit to it, but I need to make sure that it's falling into the right hands. That's another thing. The next county executive needs to follow the money. That's what I think is going on for too long. The money's going out, but we're not following it and making sure it falls into the right hands.
Thank you so much.
The school district funding of schools, and we all know the inequities. The county executive can talk about that and advocate for change. And I think it's super important for our children that we have adults, including the county executive, standing up for them in that regard. It's an enormous, enormous problem. Second thing I want to talk about here briefly is we're back to this question of resources. Where are the resources to find this $20 million or that $10 million or that $30 million? Well, where should we look? Who caused the problems that we have? What about our corporations and our government and our banks? And I believe that as a result, we should be going to what we'll call our business partners here and asking them to contribute. And I believe that is something that they would be willing to do. I wouldn't fight to the point where you don't get anything, but I would be putting it to them. In the nonprofits, the folks that have come through in the past with big contributions, well, let's not just do that citywide like with Pittsburgh Promise. Let's do things countywide. Let's have childhood education initiatives. Where do we get the money? Let's go to the corporations and nonprofits and hold them to task when they say, yeah, we're willing to pitch in. That takes a leader. That takes someone that's going to be tough and to negotiate out solutions that are going to change things. That's what I'm going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Fawcett. I'll now turn to Mr. Rocky.
Thank you. I'm going to take your questions on directly, but I first want to say to Will that the reason I'm here is because I care. I'm not here because I have to be here. I'm not here because it's the next step on my political career. I'm here because I care about the people of Allegheny County, and it starts with the children. And I will tell you, if I walked out of here 8 or 12 years from now, and the legacy was Joe Rocky cares about our children and made their lives better, I would go to bed at night for the rest of my life completely content, because that's what we need to do. We need to take advantage of creating a central place where children could get services. And if you say that costs $20 million, then $20 million will be provided for it. If we are leaving on the table, as Sarah said, money that is available from either the federal or state level that we have chosen not to take advantage of to benefit our children and the people of Allegheny County. You know, there's a word to describe us, which I won't use in public, but we're idiots at best, and there's other words you could use. That is just flat out stupid. We are a county that is here to take care of the people in the county, all those in need. And for us to leave money on the table is a mistake, and just allows other areas to pass us by and their children to benefit in ways that our children aren't getting the opportunity to. That is on the county executive to lead and make sure that every child is given every opportunity they can. You know, I stand here, and unfortunately I'm going to make a compliment about myself. I get a lot of compliments about my smile. I would not have my smile if it wasn't for county dental services that were available in the 70s that were given to me, okay? That opportunity needs to be given to every child. No child should have a miss of their medical, their physical, their educational opportunities. I'm on the board of Catholic Charities, and I'm on it partially because what they do is provide health care for children, dental care for children like I received, and I realize I'm done. But you hopefully appreciate the passion that I bring to this, and yes, I care.
Thank you, Mr. Rocky. I'm going to turn to Mr. Lamb now.
I think about the statistic I read quite a while ago about the way that the federal government determines how many jail cells they're going to need in the future. And the number one factor they look at is they look at current literacy rates in communities. So it's that important, right? And so we know that when we can have students who are successful, that it makes their entire lives successful. I believe that we should have quality pre-K in every district for every child in Allegheny County, and I'm going to commit to that. We're going to make that happen here in Allegheny County because we know the statistics about what quality pre-K does and how it helps kids towards success. Some of you remember that I started co-founded an organization here in Allegheny County called A+ Schools. And one of the major missions of A+ Schools was to deal with out-of-school time. Let's first identify the programs that are out there, and then let's raise the quality of those programs to get them consistent with school district curriculum. So it's not just kids hanging out and playing sports, but that we're actually moving the ball forward in their lives with school district curriculum. And then in this campaign, I've introduced the Allegheny Achievers Program, which will allow every high school graduate in Allegheny County to go to community college for free. We know that we have a vast need in this county for a workforce. 60% of all job vacancies right now require some form of certificate and not a 4-year degree. We know we have a massive student debt problem across this country and here. If we can help kids get 60 credits for free before they go under their 4-year degree, let's do that. And we also know the community college is a great feeder for our public safety personnel, our apprenticeship programs, our trades. So it's a win-win-win. And I'll just briefly tell you this. I agree with what you said. When I was a kid, I took a Port Authority bus to school. And we got to find a way to fund that. I think one of the ways we fund that is through having our employers, including Allegheny County, buy bus passes for all of their employees to help better fund the Port Authority, or the PRT moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. And Mr. Weinstein.
Thank you. This issue itself is the whole reason I'm even running for county executive, is because I'm a father. I have twins. I have a little boy and a little girl. They're my whole motivation for doing this. If I didn't have them, I probably wouldn't even be running. I would probably be running for treasurer. I saw firsthand what early learning development does for kids and how important that is. And I'm very passionate about this. I share the passion of my friend sitting right next to me, Mr. Rocky, about children and where we need to go with this region with our kids. There's certainly too much violence that's happening with our kids, young kids, committing crimes, and we need to do something about that. Whether it's reimagining Schumann Center, no matter what it is, I'm concerned about the trajectory of the lives of our kids. I will commit the $20 million. I will commit the funds that we need necessary to make this happen. I am 1,000% committed to this, and the equitable treatment of all children in Allegheny County. We need more, not only do we need more buses for transportation, we need more bus drivers. We could have all the buses in the world, but if you don't have enough bus drivers, it's not going to help. I rode the Port Authority today from McKeesport all the way through to Oakland, and I talked to people on the bus about this. We need transportation for kids to go to school. Nothing is more important. We are exporting our biggest natural resource is our children. When they graduate from high school or they graduate from college, they have to leave. 60% of them leave this region to go find a job. That's not acceptable. And the next county executive can change that. And I'm committed to do that for my kids, for your kids, and for the grandchildren of Western Pennsylvania and Allegheny County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weinstein. Thank you. Thank you, candidates. And I'm going to pause for a minute and let you all take a drink of water, and I'll walk us through the third section. I would like to ask for a time check. Can somebody tell me what time it is? 5:20. Okay, so take a drink of water. This third section is going to be me asking the questions that came from the group of nonprofits that helped to plan this event. I am going to ask, Sarah, that we keep it to 2 minutes, because if we don't, not everyone is going to have a chance to answer questions in every area. Okay, we're going to go back to food, start again, right? And I'll ask the questions, and I'll give everyone a chance, okay? I want folks in the audience to remember that we are not opening it up to questions. These are the questions we are going to ask. But if we end early, I'm sure some of the candidates will stick around, and you can ask them questions yourself. You all okay with that? Okay? All right, very good. All right, so, and I'm going to start this section with candidates who have not had a chance to go first yet, so that everyone got a chance to go first. So, Mr. Lamb, you're going to be up first on this one, and this is about food insecurity. The question that was asked by the nonprofit leaders was that research shows us that addressing food insecurity through a coordinated approach with other human services and resources proves to have the greatest efficacy. How might you address this within the county's approach?
So, as I said earlier, I mean, I think one of the things that we need to do is to really up the number of people who are availing themselves to these programs, and of course funding as well. But it is true that as we work around other human service needs, that coordinating that activity is something that I think we should do. But I've been talking to a number of the folks who are out there doing work around our farmers markets, you know, and making that available in more places across our county. Expanding those programs, allowing for fresh produce to come into communities. And we can do that because we have a number of facilities that we can do that in. In each community, we can work with our communities. One of the things I've talked about creating is this Office of Municipal Partnership, where we can work with all of our municipalities every day in dealing with the issues that they have in their community and really building out the opportunity for fresh produce in those communities, working with existing infrastructure within the county and providing those opportunities. Again, I still think the main thing we have to do is advocate for more funding, but we also have to make that available. I think our current health department, who right now has to make required regulatory stops at every grocery store in Allegheny County, should be armed with information about all of the available programs that are out there to deal with hunger and to deal with the availability for benefits.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. You can pass it to Ms. Enamorado. We'll go down the line. Would you like me to read the question again? Okay, sure. Research shows us that addressing food insecurity through a coordinated approach with other human services and resources proves to have the greatest efficacy. How might you address this within the county's approach?
So first, it's having a county exec's office that ensures that the heads of our departments are meeting regularly around these deeply intersectional issues. The Department of Health can be a great partner in this. addressing food insecurity is addressing a social determinant of health. And I have talked to healthcare providers, and they are unaware of many of the services that are available through the Department of Human Services and other initiatives that you all provide to the individuals that you are in service with. So using, again, the power of the county exec's office to ensure that we're educating primary health providers as well as folks at our federally qualified health centers so that we're connecting people with resources that are available. You know, the advantage I have of coming from the State House is having the connections with our leadership in the General Assembly. And as we advocate for more funds and changes to our state codes, you know, I will be able to partner with other elected representatives to push through legislation, currently as a state representative, but as county executive as well, and continue those relationships so that we can prioritize addressing some of the greatest needs that exist throughout our region.
Thank you so much. You can hand it to Mr. Fawcett. Would you like me to read the question again?
I think I got it.
You got it?
And
All
I
right.
think
Perfect.
the implication or the obvious conclusion from the question is this, that of course you can't just supplement nutritional needs, that you have to have a multi-pronged approach, and that's for sure. That has to be the case. So you think of the child that has the nutritional needs. It needs food supplements and so on. What else do they need? Well, as the county executive, they need clean air, and we have areas of these counties typically associated with lower income areas that where our pollution issues are concentrated. So that needs to be a consideration. The children deserve and should have access to transportation, as was mentioned. Children need to be, and their families need to have access to good, affordable housing, and when they're using existing housing stock, to programs that will allow them to stay in their homes and improve their homes. So, it is certainly a multi-pronged approach, and one that I would be certainly glad to take, and I agree with Ms. Innamorato that certainly convening across departments and agencies is a big role of the county executive. Coordinating, that has to be done.
Thank you, Mr. Fawcett. I'm going to go now to Mr. Parker. And would you like me to repeat the question for you? No?
No, I got it.
Okay, thank you.
So when it comes to, I think if that's what the studies show, let's just put in place more partnerships, more collaboration. At the county level, what I would do is every year I would do a challenge. I think that would be great. I think that would work out great, and we get the best ideas from the people who are living in the county to see what they could come up with to tackle these issues. Even today, what we're doing right now, when this gentleman is coming to the table with a request of $20 million, I think actually that would be the best thing. If we can all just go down each line item and say what we would commit to as far as money-wise and funding-wise, then everybody can leave out of here with a good idea of where we all stand and what we're committed to. So, but besides that, committing to a challenge and making sure people of color are brought to the table, because I know so many times when initiatives like this happen and they have challenges, people always look to who's being promoted highly, who's the go-to. We need to look at the lowest level, hear what people are saying from the lowest level, and take their ideas into consideration and fund them and highlight them and use them as to be examples for the next generation to come up with more ideas. We have to consistently keep evolving around nutrition and food security.
Thank you. Mr. Rocky.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Would you like me to read the question again? Okay, thank you.
The question is about how do we integrate, and I would start with technology. I think it's critical that we have the technology that allows us to understand what services we're offering to which individuals and which families, which will then be a forerunner to what other services they may need or be eligible for that they're not even asking for. And so technology can allow us to help lead families and individuals to their needs, and so that they can get access to the services without having to hunt and peck and go to different places, and that we can bring them to them. And integrating things, I talked about myself riding the bus, integrating things that make sure that our transportation allows them to get where they need to be, to get the services that they need, to make sure that every child in this county is fed, and make sure every elderly person in this county is fed. I would also tap into our corporate world. Every single employer in this county has people in their offices who are hungry. You may not think that because they have a job, but it is true. They potentially have hungry children at home. That parent is potentially hungry, and we need to lean on the corporations to make sure that they're providing funding to support food insecurity across the entire county. Because at the end of the day, what they're actually supporting is the family of their employees. And then the third thing I would do, and this is talked about a little bit at the state level, I would bring to life the breakfast and lunch program across every school district, so that every child at a minimum has 2 solid meals every single day. I would make sure it worked also on Saturday and on Sunday, and that it was available there in the summertime. Because when a child is hungry, they cannot learn, they cannot exercise, they cannot grow properly, they cannot become the person they can become. And so imperative that we make it easy for them.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Weinstein, would you like me to read the question again?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
This is to my point earlier about the hunger-free Allegheny County, which is what I'm committing to do. And it's about developing partnerships. It's a partnership with our health department. It's a partnership with the food bank, Just Harvest. Anyone that's involved in feeding people is the partnership we need to create. And for 25 years, I've been creating partnerships with people from the treasurer's office. And I want to be able to just move that down to the executive's office and create strong partnerships all around Allegheny County. We have 43 school districts in this county, so the partnership should be with the Allegheny Intermediate Unit for the 43 public schools. And we should never, the school districts understand the dynamics of a hungry child. If they're coming to school, and as Joe just said, they can't learn if they're hungry. They need to eat. We need an opportunity to be able to feed them. We need the information as to who they are and where they are. And I'm going to partner with all of our Department of Human Services under the county jurisdiction for the grant money, the CBDG money. We have to prioritize that to feed our children in Allegheny County. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next set of questions is from the Housing Instability nonprofits. Many of the questions that are on here you have already answered or talked about, but there is one specific question, and while it's very focused on the city, it would be nice that this group could get an answer. So, and I'm going to actually start with you, Mr. Weinstein, okay? So what can be done about the unhoused populations downtown and the increase in encampments? How would you approach this problem?
Well, the homeless and the unhoused population downtown is a big issue for me, and I've been talking about this since the campaign started, about helping to reinvigorate the jewel of downtown Pittsburgh. Because once you lose the vibrancy of the city, it effectuates the entire region and the entire neighborhoods. I would partner with our foundation community, I would partner with our nonprofit community, and I would create a process for our homeless, because they need mental health problems, mental health treatment, they need drug addiction treatment. We could address these encampments, but you can't arrest someone for being homeless, but you can arrest them if they're committing a crime on the sidewalk, but there's nowhere to take them. So we need a facility to be able to take them. The Second Avenue facility is busting at the seams. The intent was fantastic, and it's worked, but it's too small. We need multiple facilities throughout this county to address this problem. By bringing the nonprofit and the foundation community together, we can create those opportunities. These are human beings on the streets. We need to help them and have an opportunity where they can effectuate their life and get treatment that they need. And I'm 1,000% fully committed to doing that and strengthening the vibrancy of downtown Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Thank you. You can hand it to Mr. Rocky. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think
Okay.
I got it. Thank you very much. I said before that I was involved in Second Avenue Commons coming out of the ground, including the research that decided what was necessary in that facility, and I've also been involved at St. Joseph's House of Hospitality. At the end of the day, there's two aspects that have to be addressed. The first is the individual. Every individual who is homeless needs to be treated like the person that they are, understanding what fundamentally is their individual challenge or challenges. Is it drug and alcohol? Is it financial? Is it a mental challenge that they have? Is it that they don't have access to their drugs or they're not taking their drugs? Whatever it is, that person needs to be treated with respect, one-on-one, to address their particular need that allows them to get off the street and into a place like St. Joseph's House of Hospitality where they will have support around them. And then secondly, I agree with John. We need more facilities. So I know during the pandemic, we actually used a hotel for individuals to put them in. We could use the foundation support and corporate support to figure out what facilities are ready to go right now inside the city that could be purchased or utilized to support the homeless who are on the street tonight, that they would have a place to go. So, I'm also involved at the Red Door, which hands out food every day to the homeless, hands out a lunch every day. And to stand there and to talk to the homeless as they come through and to see how thankful they are that somebody cares and somebody is taking the time to help them and support them. That's back to number one. We have to treat every one of these people with respect, while at the same time we're getting the financial resources quickly to allow people to have a place to stay immediately so that they can move forward in their own lives.
Thank you. You can hand it to Mr. Parker. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thanks.
Nope? Okay.
Absolutely. We definitely have to approach this with, making sure, with respect. We need to make sure that the people, they understand that we still look at them with dignity. We need to make sure that we offer solutions out. As I said, now the Schumann is closed. I would like to see Schumann reimagined as a place for the unhoused. I think that that's not too far from the city where we can work with somebody like our bus PRT, and we can get some buses that run from downtown over into Lorimer and Lincoln, and we can house the unhoused up there. We can also work with some of the property around the county, blight property that can be rehabbed. We need to make sure it's rehabable, and we can get them into some of this property. We have property here. We have a whole lot of property, but it's just about who's going to take that initiative, who's going to step up and get these things done, because, sometimes people, from the way I see it, sometimes it's like people prey on the vulnerable. They want them to fail. And that's what keeps the court system running. That's what keeps police officers with jobs. That's what keeps the doctors able to prescribe people with medications. So we need to help people. We need to make sure that they know that they still have their value. We need to lift them from the ground up, and we need to work with them and give them all the resources that we have available from the Department of Human Services, the Department of Health, the Health Department. Like I said, everything that we do, it needs to be intentional, and we can't be, we need to uplift people at every level.
Thank you. Mr. Lamb, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, that's
No,
okay.
okay, sure.
Certainly, funding shelters is important, and we have to do it. But not all shelters are the same. We need to make sure that we have the kind of services, social services, medical services, counseling, that like we have at Second Avenue, right? Because what we're seeing right now on Smithfield Street is not as positive. And so we have to address that. Just like we talk about raising the level of after out of school time, we have to do that with these shelters as well. And we also need more investment in that transitional housing beyond the shelter. Single room occupancy and other options. We need that funding there as well. But with the specific situation in downtown, I've heard the mayor talk about it, and I actually agree with a lot of what he says. But where he's failed is on the execution. We talk a lot about a police co-response, a social service response downtown. That program has failed to launch. It's been 3 years. We've been talking about it. And it didn't work. It didn't launch under the last administration. It hasn't launched under this administration. And so the and now actually the individual who was running that program has been terminated from the city. And so the current administration has failed us there. They need to commit to that co-response unit. They need to commit to the social services that these individuals, whether we're talking about addiction services, mental health services, making sure that we can divert those people away from the criminal justice system, because that's the worst alternative. But again, where we have failed has been on the execution, and I think our Department of Human Services can be the County Department of Human Services can be a real help there, a help to the city, and in anywhere else across this county where we see these homelessness issues.
Thank you. Would you like me to repeat the question, Representative?
No, I'm okay, thank you. So I was on the phone with a business leader downtown who shared, I think, a really hurtful narrative around unhoused individuals, and saying that, well, if we build more shelters, low barrier shelters like Second Avenue Commons, or we open up more beds, then that's going to enable homelessness. So one of the key things that the county exec can do is use their soft power and make sure that we are not perpetuating harmful narratives against unhoused individuals, and making sure that our business community sees unhoused individuals as fully whole people and individuals that are in need of a compassionate and comprehensive and empathetic response. And we also know that it's not as simple as walking up to an unhoused individual and saying, we have a bed for you. There is trust that needs to be built with that community. So as county executive, I want to make sure that we are funding medicine street teams, making sure that we're funding Operation Safety Net, so that we have folks who are going out to people who are in crisis, being able to work with them and being able to move them to shelters and then into more supportive and long-term housing. We have a model right here in the county that works with Veterans Place. And it's an excellent model, and it's something that works with our veterans community. But it is not available, nor does that infrastructure exist at scale for the civilian community. So that is a model that we can look at that has been successful and offers very comprehensive support, from getting folks into beds, into supportive housing, and then into long-term housing opportunities. It's just going to take the political will to be able to convene the tables and resources necessary to address this issue in a empathetic and human-centered way.
Thank you. And Mr. Fawcett, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I'm good. So I think this is definitely a deep and complicated issue. And there certainly are a lot of views and feelings you hear from different people in town. But I think if we were looking for long-term solutions, we ought to think about, how did we get here? And in the old days, we had hospitals for mentally ill, and the population of those facilities and institutions obviously went dramatically down. What other institutions have had their population go dramatically up at the same time? Our jails and our prisons. And that's what we did as a society through mass incarceration, and doling out long sentences, and sentencing juvenile offenders to felonies, and treating homeless people now not as having a disorder, but as committing a crime. So we need to change that. And yes, we need more resources. Yes, we need more facilities, but we really need to be thoughtful about it. And, when we built the jail, what was that, 20 years ago? We should have built an addiction center or a hospital next to it. Instead of just cycling many people through the jail who have addiction issues and mental health disorders. I mean, that's insane. And when you do that, you set people back off of their life path and out of opportunities. From the young people that we've done it, from the African Americans we've done it, from the other people of color, and from the people with mental disabilities. So we need to change that. Less in this, increase that, and yes, be humane in the process by devoting resources to the issue.
Okay, thank you. And now we're to our last set of questions, which is about childhood poverty. I am going to ask for a time check, though. Can you tell me what time it is? What is it? 5:45. Okay. They had a lot of questions. Mr. Copeland asked all of them. I am going to take the prerogative. There's one question that I didn't really get an answer from everyone, and it picks right up where Mr. Fawcett left off. Mr. Rocky, you're first this time. See? Everyone got a chance to go first. Okay. What ideas do you have to stop youth from being pushed out of school through suspension and police interaction and provide youth with more options than punishment or jail? And do you have any thoughts on how you would approach Schumann Detention Center in juvenile justice? I know that's a lot. 2 minutes. Okay.
Well, thank you.
I put 2 questions in there.
It's a very difficult question. We have real challenges when children do very bad crimes. But we've got to start when the smaller things happen and figure out how we're going to support children and their families when minor incidents occur. And so, ultimately, if you do go and shoot somebody, there has to be incarceration of some form. There has to be a place for us to take and rehabilitate that individual. But what we have to do is we have to address the smaller things that occur in a proactive, effective manner that does not include incarcerating the individual, but does include acknowledging that something bad or inappropriate occurred, and that is a cry for help. And by a cry for help, that's not just a cry by that individual who went and did something. It's a cry for the whole family and the support system around them. So understanding what is causing an individual to feel like the next best thing for them to do is to go steal or to go do something inappropriate that would be considered criminal, although minor, is for us as a society to wrap our arms around that individual and give them the support. And the Allegheny County budget, as mentioned, $3 billion, is there to support health and human services. And many of the fundamental things at the end of the day will be the child's either hungry, the family's hungry, there's challenges at home for either housing, for support services for health, or for their mother or their grandmother. That's what we have to get to the core and support not just that child, but that entire family with the totality of what the county budget and the county executive is responsible for.
Thank you. You can hand it to Mr. Parker.
Absolutely. When it comes to these issues, that they all intertwined, but we need to make sure that these children and their families, their parents, are getting the right and appropriate social services, the complete wraparound. Because we can't just expect these kids to do it all on their own. They didn't ask to be here, but they're here now, and we need to enable the people who brought them on this earth with the right resources. We need to make sure that they have value, because that's primarily what's happening. When a parent can't give the child too much time, then the child goes elsewhere for attention. And so we need, or education, or how they choose to learn, or how they choose to act or react to things. So we need to have that guidance in place. We also, all these issues that we've been talking about primarily affect our Black and our Latino communities. So that's why I'm up here, because just think, if I wasn't here, what Black person would be best to address our needs? I can't really sincerely ask any of these candidates up here, what are you going to do for the Black and brown community? And that's why I chose to run, because we need representation every time, all the time, at the highest level. And that's why I'm here, because regardless if I win or if I don't win, I'm still continue to do the necessary work, whether it has to do with child poverty, housing, or working with our juveniles. We need to make sure that someone is, again, intentional, someone who really cares is elected for this position. Because what keeps happening is we keep falling for these same politicians that keep promising us nothing. Nothing. This is why these situations continue to hold us back from who we really can be. This county is great. You all know it. We love Pittsburgh. We love this whole county, and we can work, but we need to work together. That's what we need to do. We need to work together. It's possible, and we can make it happen.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Mr. Weinstein.
Thank you. If you close a road, there's an alternate route. They closed Schumann Center, and there was no alternate route. We have 1.3 million people that live in this county. We need somewhere to send kids that are getting in trouble so that we can rehabilitate them and save them. And I'm totally committed to doing this. I was one of the first people to start talking about reopening and reimagining Schumann Center. It doesn't have to be Schumann Center. We're not going to call it anything near that. The facility's terrible. If anyone in this room has actually ever been there, it's a terrible facility. I wouldn't send my dog to Schumann Center. That's the condition of that building. The entire operation needs to be changed. It should be an educational resource center to help kids. If it's a truancy issue, we help them with truancy. If it's a dependency issue, we help them with that. That's what Schumann Center, the new Schumann Center, should be all about, is helping the kids of this region. There's a big difference between shoplifting and a felony, murder or rape or arson. They should be treated completely different. And they should be helped along the way, each and every step of the way. And the next county executive needs to do that. Schumann Center was closed because of poor leadership. The state issued multiple violations over a long period of time, and the violations were never corrected. So it was poor leadership that led to this. And the kids of this region know that. They know that if they get in trouble right now, there's nowhere to send them. The judges are sending them back home. We need to reimagine a facility that helps the kids of our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weinstein. Mr. Fawcett.
So in the past 10 years, I've represented a number of juvenile lifers. Those are kids that committed crimes, including murder when they were kids and sentenced to life, and now they're being resentenced. And it's been really eye-opening for me to learn that a couple things. First of all, kids commit crime almost overwhelmingly because of environmental factors. How they were raised, what the culture was around them, and so on. The other thing I learned was that almost universally, kids, including kids that did horrible things, grow out of criminality. They do. So the people that I've had released, first of all, they're some of the greatest people I know, including people that killed when they were young. And, you know, to put the kids away or to punish them or put them away for life, which used to be our practice, is not the answer. Now, your question was about kids in school that commit offenses. Well, certainly you have to protect the community around them, but the answer isn't punishment, and it's not longer punishment or harsher punishment. Those are the things that I've learned. Those are the things that I know about to my core, and those are the kind of things that I'm going to bring to this job and understand it's not law and order that answers the question. It's much more deeper and more complex, and again, you need the resources to apply to the situation. So that's what I'll do as your county executive.
Thank you. You can hand it to Representative Innamorato.
Right now, we have youth that are detained and they're either sent to the Allegheny County Jail or sent across the state away from any support network that they have, and that's unacceptable. So we do need some sort of small detention facility for youth that may have committed an act of violence and needs to be housed in that situation, and that facility needs to be small and needs to be the exception, not the rule. When Schumann Center closed, it had 120 beds and 20 of which were occupied. If we create a large facility again, my fear is that we will fill it mostly with Black, brown, and poor children, and it's unacceptable. So we can have that piece of the criminal legal system that is highly, it is run by highly specialized, highly trained individuals. And then we can also have investment in a facility that, again, looks at models like freedom schools, where you don't necessarily need to have to interact with the criminal legal system to gain access to those resources. For too long, we design resources in the public realm that you can only access when you're in crisis or you're part of a criminal legal system or you have a record. We need to be able to design resources that get to kids, especially upstream, and get to families with supports so that we can get ahead of these issues and be able to support not only that individual youth, but the entire family and the entire community. So that's gonna take, again, a whole of society approach and really strong collaboration as we work towards building a more just and equitable region for all of us.
Thank you. And Mr. Lamb.
I think we need to make a commitment to all of our school-age kids. And that commitment are a couple of things. First off, every kid in every district should have access to quality out-of-school programming. And not just recreation, not just hanging out, actual opportunities and experiences that fall in line with the school district curriculum. We should be doing that in every district for every kid. Every kid in every district should have access to a school psychologist. Every kid in every district should have access to a social worker. That should happen in every school. And our county Department of Human Services can help make that happen. As for Schumann, I do believe we need a juvenile detention center in this town, particularly for juvenile offenders of major crime. But I don't think it can be privately run. I don't think it should be a private-public partnership. To me, private says profit, and we're not going to profit off the misfortune of our kids in Allegheny County. What I think is that it should be a county-run facility that we partner with and contract with our neighboring counties to bring their juvenile offenders here for our program. Remember that in most cases, the kids at Schumann aren't there very long. And sometimes it's a day or two, and maybe 2 weeks. So it's not like we're going to build some rehabilitative facility there. But what it can be, we can provide access to programming that can be helpful to those kids. You know, the Master Builders Association is a great program. And those, you know, where they're really trying to reach out to at-risk youth. You know, that can be a relationship that we could really build on to help some of our juvenile offenders and really get them on a right path. You know, I just think we've got to make a commitment to our kids, and those are some of the things that we need to do.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. That is our time. I would really love to thank all of the candidates. I'm going to turn it over to the president of the United Way of Southwestern Pennsylvania, Bobby Wakir, to close us out, but I really would like to thank you all.
I realize we've all been seated for 2 hours now, so my remarks are going to be very brief. I have really appreciated this conversation, the engagement, and the focus on basic human needs. I thank the candidates. I thank the Allegheny County Human Service leaders for all of the work that you do every day. And I thank Michelle Figlar, our very capable moderator, facilitator here this evening. And yes, indeed. Thank you, Michelle. And on behalf of United Way, I want to thank our partner host in this event, the Pittsburgh Foundation. It's always great to partner with the Pittsburgh Foundation. We set out to focus on issues that impact our ability to collectively rise and thrive as a community. Issues that aren't always at the center of the conversation, but should be, and here is why. 38% of Allegheny County residents struggle to meet their basic needs, like food, housing, and childcare. About 11% of that total meet the formal definition of poverty, of living in poverty, but the other 27% are asset-limited, income-constrained, and employed residents. They're working hard in jobs every day, sometimes in multiple jobs, but they don't earn enough to meet their basic needs, to make the ends meet. We hear from them every day on United Way's 211 24/7, 365 helpline, where contacts have doubled in the last few years. Needs are rising. I am sure that if we asked every candidate and every person in this room, we could agree that we want to envision a community in which 38% of our neighbors are not struggling to meet their basic needs, to get through the day. Let's commit to that. To the candidates, I hope you'll carry the voices and the messages and the discussions that we've had here this evening to build that community in which everyone has the equitable opportunity to thrive. So on behalf of United Way of Southwestern Pennsylvania, the Pittsburgh Foundation, I want to thank you for your service to the community. I want to thank you for the service to the community. Have a great evening.